Holy smokes, we are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost. If you want to support the true home for the college football sickos with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make your comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio. Even the Hurricanes, even those evil Badgers, even Silent Tony, who wasn't so silent today. Even Jim Phillips. Where are you, Jim Phillips? You are welcome into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Woo! Holy smokes, what a day. We are going to start off with the breaking news. We're going to start off with the Big Ten going hard after Miami, backing up Wisconsin. Wisconsin has filed a suit against Miami. We're going to go through that big story first. And then we're going to talk about another big story Pat Shun, Washington Athletic Director. We did an episode earlier today, episode 443. Everybody can watch it. We did an episode earlier today. He gave indications that he believes that it is likely that the Big Ten's in their next media contract that they are going to have unequal revenue sharing. Not all the shares are going to be equal. That's how he said it. Very interesting indeed. So we got a big old show lined up. So we're going to go through these stories first. We will, of course, prioritize the super chats before we get to the phone calls. First, we're going to do a roll call. It is a big live show. June 20th, a monster of a live show. It's a monster of a story. However, keep your head on a swivel. Because a lot of this, it's really going to be up to Miami and how Jim Phillips answers what Wisconsin has done and what the Big Ten has said today. So if Miami goes one way, then this story is going to be shortened. But if Miami goes another way, if Jim Phillips goes the other way, I don't understand. I do not understand how it got to this point. It should have never gotten to this point. I know now, look, I get it. Wisconsin Badgers fans are going to say, we were in the right. And the Miami Hurricane fans say, this wasn't even a real contract. It was an MOU, and there aren't real contracts started until the South Settlement, and the real contracts don't even start until July 1st. We are in the right. The Big Ten's their legal counsel looked at it. No, we are back in Wisconsin, and hopefully we will hear from Jim Phillips. And maybe he'll say we're back in Miami. I don't know, but I do know this. Why? Why did it get to this point? The juice is definitely not worth the squeeze. I need someone to tell me that the juice is definitely worth the squeeze. Based around Wisconsin waiting until the settlement to file this suit just shows the contract wasn't valid and that Wisconsin isn't trying to win. What is Wisconsin trying to do then? What is Wisconsin trying to do? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe this is just an act of deterrence. To deter other people from tampering when we got our Badger players under contract. But it ain't just about Wisconsin. It ain't just about Wisconsin. It's what the Big Ten said in public. And it's also about what Miami hasn't said. They got to say something. Jim Phillips hasn't. But sometimes being right is not all that important. I tell my wife that all the time. When she tells me something that I screwed up on, I say to her, okay, little general. I got it. I screwed it up. But sometimes it's how you go about things that are even more important than if it was correct or not. Miami. Listen to me. Daniel Gorby, Miami proposed to schedule a game with the Evil Badgers on 2026 to settle this on the field. Winner of the game decides it. Thank you, Daniel Gorby, for the super chat, Mr. Seminole. I appreciate your generosity. Base Jurin, I appreciate your generosity as well. None of this is worth the squeeze. None of it. None of it. None of it. The Big Ten Conference having to come out in public and say this about another institution outside of its conference. They believe they have the goods. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through the suit. It sounds like they got the evidence. But what about Miami? What do you? I'm probably going to have a lot of Hurricane fans upset with me, but now this cornerback is probably a really good player. I know Wisconsin loved him in his first year, but is he worth all of this? Now I get it. He's going to a university he wants to go to. That's good, but couldn't you just write out a check and send it on Wisconsin's way and have this all go away? We're going to be doing that anyways. Do you think the Minnesota Golden Gophers are going to be able to keep all their top players? I mean, we did pretty good this offseason when we got Revshire. There are a lot of programs out there that are going to have more tools to keep their best players in-house, but they're not all going to stay. They are going to go. They're going to go in the portal. But if they're under contract, there's going to be a buyout here. There is going to be money exchanging hands all the time. Why couldn't Miami just get this done quietly? You might be completely in the right. You might be completely correct. But why is this worth that? Why is it worth? It isn't worth this. This should have never gotten to this point. I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, I'm for those who do not know, let me do a roll call here. Let me do a roll call quick. I got to explain something. We've got people joining our show for the very first time today, and people are going to be watching this later on, and I really have to explain something about the University of Wisconsin. Nobody knows the University of Wisconsin like the fat guy from Minnesota. Okay? BTM and Associates. Anybody you talk to in the Big Ten corridors. University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm going to just, I don't want to use the phrase. I hope the evil badgers out there take it in the spirit that I'm saying this. But the University of Wisconsin-Madison are righteous blanks. They are also powerful, righteous blanks. For those who do not know the politics of the Big Ten, I will explain in a moment. This battle that Miami is in, it's just what is going on. It's not worth it. This is ridiculous. This makes, this is not a battle worth fighting. Not even close. Jago Blues in the house. Don Scruggs, 21 Bucket 21. JC Films is in the house. Chef Mall, Don Scruggs, R. Webb, Al Woody, Skaven, yes, John Dry, the College Football Mafia, Flint Dog 8208, Mr. Monkey Says, the Buckshot Kid is in the house. MBM is here. Ed D is in the house. Xmas Talks is here. Terror on the High Seas, Kenner Bowman, the Architect, Drama, no question about it. Richard L., Colorado Buffalo, Go Black 45, what's up, my fellow cult members? Steel Austin, Go Utes, the Edward, the Auburn Tiger is in the house. Base Sharon, thanks for coming on in, appreciate it. Richard Brookins is in the house. PA No Fan is here. Humble Bumble Dog, Laura Weiss, the Red Raider, Bob Swanger is in the house. Bob Swanger is in the house. Rod Nix is here. The Big Gun Shop has made his presence known. Go Black 45, Jonathan Price, Lorenzo Hayes, Carlton Hurdle is in the house. Amazing Blue, Joaquin Morales. Okay, let's get to it. And we got another super chat. Oh, thank you so much, Base Sharon. Does Miami sue Bama for tampering with Isaiah Horton? Now, what's the end game? If Miami gets to the Big Ten, how does this affect the conference? Does Miami have the goods on Bama? Do they have the goods? Now, I don't know that whole situation. There's a lot of tampering going on. There's very few times that you have the goods. I will go back, and I've told this story before, but Minnesota caught Kansas State red-handed in tampering with Kai Thomas. Minnesota brought all the evidence to Kansas State, and what Kansas State did is all hands off. We are now no longer recruiting Kai Thomas. Kai Thomas, running back, would have gone to Kansas State in the portal. He had a great freshman year at Minnesota when our number one running back got injured. In fact, both Kai Thomas and Bucky Irving, went into the transfer portal after having both great seasons at Minnesota. Irving went to Oregon. He got tampered with before he went in the portal. And Kai Thomas got tampered with before he went in the portal. Minnesota did not have the goods on Oregon, although they did say something to Oregon. And since then, the Big Ten has talked with Oregon. But Kai Thomas, there was all sorts of communication between the coaching staff of Kansas State and Kai Thomas or people around him shared it with Minnesota. Exactly what happened here, according to Wisconsin. So they went to Kansas State, and Kansas State did not put up a fight. They said they backed away. Then Kai Thomas went to Kansas, and his career just went down the tubes. Not because it's Kansas' fault. He should have stayed at Minnesota, but whatever. So there's a lot of tampering going on out there. Now there's going to be less. There is going to be less because of what the era that we're going into, which these players are going to be signing contracts. Now, I happen to believe, and I could be wrong, but I happen to believe that these contracts are not going to be as binding as the NFL contracts, as the NHL contracts. But there is going to be wordage in these contracts between the players and the athletic department and the NIL collective that if you shall leave our program, there's going to be a buyout, just like coaches. When a coach leaves, there's a buyout. And that's what I don't understand here. Why didn't Miami give some money to Wisconsin? I don't get it. I don't, why not? Again, if you want to be right, go ahead and be right. If that is your goal, to be right about this, go ahead. But Miami, in the situation that you are in, where you are looked upon as a valuable potential future partner in the Big Ten, you are willing to die on this hill? It makes no sense. We at Peek Around the Corner, we have been very, very, very clear. Miami, we have said this 100 times. Miami is not the number one target for the Big Ten, not the number two target for the Big Ten, not the number three target for the Big Ten, for Big Ten expansion, but they are the next after that. They are in a very good spot. They would be a great blend for a lot of other potential candidates for the Big Ten. North Carolina in their connective tissue, which is probably Virginia, those are the top targets that are, of course, behind Notre Dame. But Miami has been in a very good spot. Very good spot. They are highly valued by the Big Ten presidents. Their research is highly valued by the Big Ten presidents. Their genetic research, their NIU research is highly valuable to the Big Ten. Their location for national advertisers is highly valuable for the Big Ten media partners. And it would be different if you were in this little bit of a fight with Rutgers. It would be different if you were in this fight with Maryland. It would be different if you were in this fight with Purdue and Indiana and Minnesota and Northwestern and a whole lot of other programs, a whole lot of institutions in the Big Ten, but you are in this fight with Wisconsin. That is not the fight you want to be in. It is not. And this is, now the PATC family knows this, but a lot of people outside, they don't understand. Wisconsin, and I've been trying to tell the Seminole fans this. It is going to be almost, not impossible, but almost impossible to become a Big Ten member, if that is your goal, not to have Wisconsin, Madison support. Wisconsin and Michigan are a faction unto themselves. They are the two. If you don't include John Hopkins, Washington's up there now, but Washington is a new member of it. Wisconsin and Michigan are the driving forces, the two biggest full-time, long-time members of the Big Ten. And the Big Ten presidents usually coalesce around what Michigan and Wisconsin are thinking when it comes to expansion of the Big Ten, when you need to check the box off with the Big Ten presidents. Northwestern and Minnesota follow the actions of Michigan and Wisconsin almost 100%. Now, obviously, Michigan and Wisconsin are not the only people in the Big Ten. I'm not trying to say that. But they are a faction unto themselves. Now, this go around, the next big disruption in Big Ten expansion, the Buckeyes are going to call the shots. The majority of the shot here. So again, I'm not closing the door down in Miami. I have never closed the door down in Florida State. We just told you the truth, that Florida State was not the number one or number two target of the Big Ten. We also said that Florida State and Miami would be a pretty good blend. But look at what has happened in the last couple of weeks. Now, Florida State did not have control of this. But when the Florida Board of Governors came over the top on the University of Florida Gainesville's Board of Regents and wiped out that Michigan's president, that did not help Florida State. And I was honest about it. But even then, I said, no way does that completely shut the door on Florida State. They're working at building those relationships. They're working at it. They're doing things. And today, I'm not going to completely shut the door on Miami. No way am I going to do that. But man, this does not help. I mean, doesn't anybody want to win this game? That was my joke when I was playing Little League Majors, which is a 10, 11, and 12-year-old league. I was playing for the Robbinsdale Yankees. I would sit on the bench, watch everybody make errors, and I would say out loud, doesn't anybody want to win this game? Doesn't anybody want to become a Big Ten member? Doesn't anybody want to? Maybe not. This story, we're going to go through it here. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through the reporting of Ross Dellinger for those who haven't read it, haven't heard about it. But we are missing the other half of the story. We're missing a lot. Why didn't these two universities negotiate something? Was Wisconsin asking for like a whole bunch? What was Wisconsin asking for? Why did it get to this point? God, it makes no sense. None. But we need to hear from Miami. We need to see the reaction of the University of Miami. Their athletic director, Radakovich, their president. We need to hear from Jim Phillips. So, if any of that comes out during this live show, please let us know in the chat room. But you do not want to do, you this is just mind-boggling. I mean, I'm not trying to rip. I'm sure that guy's a very good football player. And God bless him. He's at a school that he wants to go to. But he ain't worth all this. Miami, he's not worth all this. Okay, we got to get to the reporting because a lot of people are going, what the hell are you even talking about, Greg? George Holton, maybe Miami offered money, but Wisconsin refused. Could be. Thank you for becoming a member for 6 months. A Seminole, Osceola Trucka, a member for 6 months. Holy smokes. You are knighted once again, officially cloak and dagger. Thank you so much, George Holton. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get to it. I got a lot of DMs. Who knows? Maybe there's some more breaking news. But let's first cover what has already been reported today. I think we should do that first, right? Wisconsin files a suit against Miami for poaching Xavier Lucas while he was under contract with the school, Wisconsin. The Evil Badgers. Ross Dellinger. In a landmark moment in college athletics, one university has filed suit against another for poaching of a college football player under contract. The University of Wisconsin and its NIL collective filed a complaint in state circuit court on Friday against the University of Miami over alleged tortious interference, according to documents obtained by Yahoo Sports. In a first of its kind and perhaps a precedent-setting move, we're going to get more of these. Unfortunately, Wisconsin is seeking an unspecified financial damages and a declaratory judgment deeming Miami's action as wrongful for interfering with a binding revenue share contract between Wisconsin and Xavier Lucas, a former defensive back who left the program in January to compete at Miami. It was a groundbreaking decision in which Lucas transferred without entering the portal. It had already closed. And after signing the contract with the Badgers. So he transferred without entering the portal, and he signed with Miami after he signed a contract with the Badgers. The lawsuits details what transpired in the winter among the three parties. And I guess it goes in this article, but we can actually go to the lawsuit, what was filed, where we are going to read from that as well. The lawsuits details what transpired in the winter among the three parties, Wisconsin, Miami, and Lucas. Wisconsin claims that Miami communicated with Lucas, knowingly inducing him, despite knowing he had entered a contract with the school, Wisconsin. Something it terms as intentional interference, and that was not justified or privileged and caused Lucas to breach his contract. Miami interfered with Wisconsin-Madison relationship with student athlete A by making permissible contact with them and engaging in tampering, the suit says. Wisconsin released a statement to Yahoo Sports on Friday, saying that it reluctantly filed the suit and that is committed to ensuring integrity and fundamental fairness in the evolving landscape of college athletics. The university is not bringing legal action against Lucas. Let me say that again. The university is not bringing legal action against Lucas. The Big Ten Conference, PATC money shot number 1. The Big Ten Conference is supporting the suit against Miami. We stand by our position that respecting and enforcing contractual obligations is essential to maintaining a level playing field, the statement said. In addition to our legal action, we will continue to be proactive to protect the interests of our student athletes, our program, and the broader collegiate athletic community. The Big Ten, we're going to hear more from the Big Ten in a little bit here. The case is poised to set precedent in the ability for schools to enforce tampering clauses within the revenue sharing agreements that were contingent on the House settlement passage. The settlement, the mechanism introducing athletic revenue sharing, was approved on June 6. Over the last several months, dozens of schools have signed players to revenue share deals contingent on the settlement's approval, and it was approved. That is probably why they're filing the suit now, right? Universities are intending these rev share contracts to be binding documents that eliminate tampering and slow transfer movement. The suit strikes at the heart of one of the festering issues within the industry: schools tampering and ultimately poaching athletes from other programs. While against the NCAA rules, the enforcement of tampering has drawn little to no action from NCAA investigators who are hamstrung by court orders. However, in this new world of college sports, contracts stand to prevent such behavior by including specific clauses. Tortious interference describes the act of interfering with the person or entity that signed a binding contract. PATC money shot number 2 of the article. Wisconsin and Lucas struck a 2-year revenue share agreement that, like all of them, was set to begin July 1st. The first date the schools can begin directly compensating athletes. Because of the agreement, Wisconsin refused to enter Lucas' name in the portal after he requested a transfer. A freshman last season, Lucas withdrew from classes and enrolled academically at Miami in January. A move to skirt NCAA rules requiring athletes to enter the portal to communicate with another school. Lucas enrolled for the fall of 2025 semester, but was reclassified to the spring of 2025. Lucas' attorney told Yahoo Sports in January that he planned to file an antitrust lawsuit against Wisconsin if Lucas was unable to complete his move to Miami. He accused Wisconsin of blatantly violating NCAA rules by not inserting Lucas' name into the portal as he requested, and questioned the legality of the NCAA transfer portal in general. Now, Lucas is at Miami, gonna play at Miami, and the suit that Wisconsin has is not against Lucas, but it is at Miami. The revenue share agreement, a Big Ten issued template form, binds Lucas and all players who sign to that specific school and grants that school a player's non-exclusive rights to use and market their name, image, and likeness. The agreement prohibits the player's rights to be used by any other school while permitting him or her to sign outside marketing agreements according to those familiar with the template. Lucas also signed an NIL agreement, so we got to remember something here. According to Wisconsin, Lucas signed a rev share agreement, which is direct payments from the Wisconsin to the player. According to Wisconsin, Lucas signed a rev share agreement. He also signed an NIL agreement with the collective to compensate him until the university could legally, within the settlement terms, compensate him with revenue starting in July. In the suit, Wisconsin describes Lucas' promised payment as substantial and one of the highest among Badgers football players. So Lucas got paid, according to Wisconsin. NIL money, big time money. Until Wisconsin, the rev share, until he could start getting payments on July 1st, in accordance to the settlement. 2 weeks into the opening of the portal window last December, Lucas, to that point, having shown full commitment to Wisconsin, shocked and surprised the coaching staff with his request to transfer, the complaint says. Lucas, who signed last year as a four-star rated high school prospect from South Florida, played in 11 games with 18 tackles in 2024. He requested a transfer after learning while at home over the holidays that his father suffered a serious life-threatening illness, the lawyer told Yahoo Sports in January. In its suit, Wisconsin questions Lucas' rationale for seeking a transfer, writing that he provided inconsistent information to coaches on December 21st, 4 days after he originally asked for his name to be inputted into the portal. The suit claims that Miami had multiple impermissible contacts with Lucas during December and January that included a Miami coach and a prominent Miami alumnus visiting Lucas' Florida home in December with a compensation commitment for him to leave Madison. The offer was more lucrative than the one Wisconsin made. Now remember, from Wisconsin perspective, Lucas had already signed a rev share agreement and an NIL agreement. And Wisconsin is basically telling everybody here he got paid some money from the NIL agreement. Lucas' move, though not the first, shined a more public light on the enforceability of the transfer portal. In a statement to Yahoo Sports in January, the NCAA said the NCAA rules do not prevent a student athlete from enrolling from an institution, enrolling at a new institution, and competing immediately, an expected but jarring statement from those within the industry. In order to transfer, a player is required to submit a transfer request inside the designated transfer portal window for his or her sport. Entering the portal is necessary as it then permits schools to contact and communicate with players. Schools who are prohibited from communicating with those not in the portal as they risk violating NCAA rules related to tampering. Okay, and then it goes on and on and on and on and on, and that's about it. Now let me show you real quick here. This is the Big Ten, another statement from the Big Ten. Another Big Ten statement here, directly from the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten Conference is aware of the litigation recently filed by the University of Wisconsin-Madison against the University of Miami and is supportive of the University of Wisconsin-Madison position. As alleged, the University of Miami knowingly ignored contractual obligations and disregarded the principle of competitive equity that is fundamental to college athletics. Money shot number 3. PATC money shot number 3 of this live show. The Big Ten Conference believes that the University of Miami's actions are irreconcilable with a sustainable college sports framework and is supportive of Wisconsin-Madison's efforts to preserve it. So you have a conference in the Big Ten talking about another school that's not a part of the conference and saying the Big Ten Conference believes the University of Miami's actions are irreconcilable with a sustainable college sports framework. Wow. Again, how did it get to this point? How did it get to this point? Quite amazing. Quite amazing. I do want to say, though, hold on here. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so here's more. Here is the lawsuit. Miami representatives communicated with student athlete A and his family members, including an in-person December 2024 visit from a Miami coach and a prominent Miami alumnus to the Florida home of the relative of student athlete A. The information related to the in-home visit was communicated to University of Wisconsin-Madison by a relative of student athlete A. So, a relative of Mr. Lucas gave the tip-off to Wisconsin that this was going on. Miami representatives provided a compensation commitment if student A agreed to leave Wisconsin and play for Miami, including financial terms more lucrative than those included in the contract. Miami representatives facilitated the enrollment of student athlete A at Miami after the student transfer deadline has passed, thereby permitting enrollment in January 25, well after the November 1, 2024 deadline for spring transfer enrollment. So hopefully that gets everybody caught up on exactly the lawsuit. Wow. Ryan Willie, I just want to move past this. I don't want to get in an argument with Rock and Rant heading back out for a fish fry. Well, fish fries are important. No question about it. Get some filet, some crappie, sunny fillets, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of butter, no cheese. You don't need cheese on the fish fry. Ryan Willie, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so very much for your generosity. Family reunions might be awkward. Yeah. John Boxleitner, welcome to Tier 2, Wisconsin. Oh, it's walleye. Walleye's good food. Walleye is the best food. Let's see here. Big Ten says competitive equity with a straight face. Tell it to Wazoo and Oregon State. Morris Simmons throws an elbow at Miami. Miami has a history of this. This is a message lawsuit, not a shot against Miami. It is. I kind of agree with you, Richard L. It is a deterrence. Like, this was going to happen somewhere, at some place. It was going to happen. It's probably going to happen again here. But the Big Ten, once again, this ain't the first time. We heard when Wisconsin first talked about this that the Big Ten was supporting Wisconsin. For the Big Ten to actually say those words against another university that's not in their conference. Again, though, Richard L. and everybody else, I think it's really important to this story how Miami responds. How does Jim Phillips respond? We don't have that part of the story yet. I cannot fathom Miami going to war over this. You gave Lucas a whole lot of money. Just give Wisconsin some. Kill this thing. A victory ain't even worth it, man. A victory isn't even worth it. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not worth it. Numbskull News, Big Ten has to stand with membership. They probably would have shut this thing down if they didn't agree with Wisconsin. I mean, they got the... There's another report out there. I mean, it sounds like from Wisconsin and the Big Ten point of view, they got the goods. It happens once in a while on this tampering stuff. For whatever reason, somebody flips inside the family, somebody flips the information over. But for the Big Ten to come out like this, Lucas' lawyer said that what his client was only an MOU. I get it. But you know, all these universities were having these student athletes sign these MOUs. And all of them consider this contract binding. And you're going to start getting your payments on July 1st. They couldn't start, everybody in the Power Four, let's just talk about everybody knew that they couldn't wait, and they could not wait to start signing people until July 1st, the day that everybody starts getting paid. They had to do all this beforehand. And all these MOUs said, Memorandum of Understanding, said if the settlement is approved, if the rev share happens, which it all is, these contracts are going to be binding. I mean, you're going to start getting paid in July. And Lucas got an NIL deal to tie him over. A lot of these players did. And this is the only one that has come to light in this new era, in which the player then, after a while, not too long, said, I want to transfer. Now, players, in my belief, are going to be able to transfer. You're going to be able to leave your school and go to the school that you want to go to. You got a father having a heart attack. Whole bunch of things happen in these young men and women's lives. Sometimes they need to get close to home. Whatever the reason. But compensation should and will flow back to the school that signed you on a contract. Compensation is going to come back to that school. Now, maybe it won't here because there might be a gray area where it was an MOU, whatever. But eventually, especially 10 days from now on July 1st, if you want to leave, you're going to be able to leave, but compensation is coming back. It just is. This is not amateurism anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't quite professional, because your school, you're not going to be drafted. You're going to be able to leave your contract easier in this environment than an NFL player is going to be able to. But compensation is going to flow back. And this is what I don't understand. Why is Miami fighting this fight? Why? You got the player. He's at the school. Maybe Wisconsin was saying no the whole time. I don't know. Wisconsin, just take the money and I don't know. We don't know what happened in negotiations. We don't even know if there was negotiations. But man, how did it get to this point? Whew. George Holton, I bet Jim Phillips backs Miami about as good. George Holton, Osseo the Trucker. I bet Jim Phillips backs Miami about as good as he backed Florida State in 2023, meaning not very much. Don't you think? Here's another point I'm going to make. And then we're going to go to the other big story of today. And we're going to open up the phone lines. And you can let me have it. You can say, Greg, you are so wrong about everything. Let me have it with your phone calls. But we got to go to another big story that I put in to episode 443. If you haven't watched it after this live show, not now, But after the live show, go watch episode 443. But we're going to talk about it here. In the next Big Ten media negotiations, is the Big Ten going to equal revenue sharing? Are they going to do it based upon brand value? Are they going to be doing a little bit of what the ACC did? Is Pat Shun, the athletic director of Washington, is he accurate when he said this in the Seattle Times article? Or was this more like an attempt to get revenue coming from Washington donors to scare their donors a little bit? I think there's some traction to this. Over the last 18 months at Peek Around the Corner, and I said this on the College Football Mafia show, I believe there is a chance there could be some unequal revenue sharing in the next media contract. I don't think it's going to be radical. But I think there is going to be some adjustments. Before we get to the article, I will say this. Number one, the program, like the top Big Ten programs, obviously, just like in every conference, bring the most value to the conference, right? And they're the reason why they get the big contracts. But I will say, I will give a shout out to other Big Ten institutions. They have filled time slots in this new media package that Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan will not do. They refuse to do it. You know, they're not going to play a Friday night home football game. They're not going to do it. But yet, the Big Ten is getting paid big bucks because the Big Ten has increased their bandwidth of playing live sport content for Fox. That's one of the reasons why they got more money. So, again, if you're a school, and you see schools in other conferences do that, they're filling in the gaps. They're helping out the total value of the media package by doing things that the big timers, the biggest schools in the conference, will not do. And before we get to the article, you know, we did a live show yesterday about private equity coming on in. I have a suspicion, just a suspicion. This is speculation on my part. It could end up being that having unequal revenue sharing within the media rights package, it could end up being a requirement. Which I never thought I was going to say that before. Because of private equity. You know, we talked about the Super League coming on in, right? A possible Super League. All that money out there. Smash capital. 72 teams. $9 billion coming in. But they were going to have teams on different tiers, right, of payment. They were going to have the top tier, the top 8 programs, then the next and the next. And I just happen to think there could be some sort of requirement to that. It is the top schools more than ever are supporting when private equity coming on in, they're going to do a whole valuation of a conference, of a Super League, whatever. And it is the top valued schools that are taking the brunt of it. They're taking the most risk of it, right? All the other schools, 90% of us, the others, we're getting more of the benefit of this money coming in, of this risk capital coming in. We got less to lose. We got more to gain. While the biggest programs have got more to lose and less to gain. One of the reasons why I didn't think there was going to be a Super League of 72 teams, because the top SEC and the Big Ten programs would say, what is in it for us? And if there is anything in it for us, why don't we just do it on our own? I think that maybe this is part of it. There's no longer going to be a table. It's no longer going to be a tent held up by two tent poles, the media companies and the presidents of the universities. I think there's going to be a third tent pole coming on into college sports, and that's going to be that outside money, that private capital, private equity money. And for that money to come on in, and the plans that the SEC and the Big Ten have, which we talked about on the live show yesterday. If you did not see it, I would advise you to watch it. I think there would be a requirement. I think at that point, the Buckeyes and Michigan and Penn State and Oregon and USC might say, yeah, we're taking the brunt of this. We're taking the risk of this. I think maybe we should get a little bit more money in the media rights. So that is maybe what is going on. Let's get to the story. Let's get to the story here. Seattle Times. Again, for those, I apologize, who have watched the episode, but a lot of you haven't. We're just going to go over real quick. I'm not going to go through the whole article. Washington Athletic Director Pat Shun talks finances post-House settlement. Right, he talks about how the president resided over the Huskies' transition to the Big Ten. They got half shares. Again, if you want to go watch the whole episode later on today, episode 443 in your library, peek around the corner library. Judge Wilkin granted the final approval. Pat Shun, the athletic director, knew right away that being the Washington, being in the Big Ten, you were going to be adding $20.5 million. You don't have an option. You got to do the whole thing. Shun had a press conference on Wednesday talking about how the $20.5 million is going to be shared with the football, men's and women's basketball, softball, and volleyball. The director went on to talk about the financial status, operating budget. Okay. And then finally, in the article, Washington budget remains an issue, especially as Shun and the Huskies have to contend with the looming stadium debt and half shares of the Big Ten media rights distributions. Shun, however, still believes Washington will earn a full share when the conference renegotiates its next media contract, expected to begin in 2030. Money shot number 4 of this live show. PATC money shot number 4 of this live show. Shun clarified that the Big Ten's next contract likely won't include equal shares for every program, with the conference potentially taking a brand-based model approach. Very, very, very interesting indeed. Numbskull News. Remember, we are taking the word from an athletic director with 1 year in the conference. Very good point, Numbskull News. Very good point. We're going to have to hear more, right? Now, I do find it that he gave an example of what would be the influence on the not sharing the money equally, brand-based model. So that kind of leads to, if he's not lying, at least they've been socializing the idea among the athletic directors, right? I think that's probably at least what has gone on. Numbskull News says he's talking out of his backside. We'll see. So I went ahead and so I'm thinking, okay, 18 Big Ten schools, broad-based, brand-based model of unequal revenue sharing. So I'm trying to figure out how they're gonna do that. What type of tiers in the Big Ten? And of course, I don't have it prepared because I am not organized. Where did that go? Why did I close that down? Hold on, everybody. Hold on. What did I do? Lordy, what did I do? Baby, it looks like that's gone. Hold on a second. Hold on. No, that ain't right. That's not right. Well, I guess I can't really show you. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I do apologize. I thought I had it set up. I do not. I don't really need it. I can tell you off of memory what I believe. If the Big Ten, for example, put the conference into two different tiers of revenue sharing, I think it would be obvious. That that Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, USC, Oregon, and Washington would be the 9 programs, the top tier programs when it comes to brand value. And the bottom 9 would be UCLA, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwestern, Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland. Did I forget anybody? I do not know. But those 9 would be the bottom 9. Now, on a rev share, unequal revenue sharing based upon brand value when it comes to the next media contract, like Pat Shun indicated in an interview, which was an article put out by the Seattle Times, which we just covered, maybe it wouldn't be 2 tiers. Maybe it would be 3 different tiers. Although I think if you got to 3 or 4 different tiers, there's going to be more infighting, more possibility of fracturing in the Big Ten. Or maybe if they went to this type of unequal revenue sharing based upon some brand-based formula, maybe the top tier would be much more limited, much more selective. Instead of 9 schools, maybe tier 1 would be something like the top 5. Your Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, and Oregon. Who knows? I do not know. I just put it out there as an example. I wish I still had my screen, but I don't know what I did with it. Go watch episode 443. We put it out earlier yesterday. A lot more in depth than what we're doing on the live show today. But anyways, Pat Shun, Washington athletic director, during the next media negotiations, is truly the Big Ten looking at equal revenue sharing in its next media contract? I think there's a possibility of that. I really do. I'm not saying it's good as gold, but I think there is a chance. It might even be a requirement on what is about to happen, what looks like is about to happen when it comes to the Big Ten bringing in a big old partner. Besides their media partners, bringing in another partner into the mix. Okay, we are going to open up the phone lines here. We are going to open up the phone lines. I appreciate all you guys coming on in. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Go check out episode 443. Aaron Frazier, I'm late. Frazier, I'm late, but I'm a Miami fan living in Florida and Chicago native. Newsflash, transfer portal is legal. Xavier Lucas is from Southern Florida. He was recruited by Miami, and his father is sick. Okay, let's do it. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Is it worth
call from
Rick?
Rick is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. I do appreciate it. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Friday.
Yeah, busy Friday. Yes.
Very, very busy. Hoping to get a few questions answered. So the first time a player can sign is on July 1st here in 10 days?
I don't know about sign. I think he can get compensated. I think they've already signed. Right? That's what I understand. They already signed a memorandum, an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. All these schools thinks it's binding. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to get proven that it's not binding. But the compensation doesn't start until July 1st. So a lot of these players signed a rev share agreement. A lot of players. I mean, all these players did. And then they've also got an NIL agreement. A lot of them have tied them over until they start getting paid. That's my understanding.
That it's already been signed.
Yep. Now, is it binding? I guess we're going to find out per the courts.
And then there'll be new athletes signing in the future, right? When they commit to the school.
Yes, they'll be signing. They'll be signing some sort of rev share contract. A lot of them, not all of them, right? I mean, you're gonna have players in non-revenue sports that are gonna just commit with the school.
Oh no! I'm just talking football.
Okay. Yeah. These football players are gonna be signing contracts. Yes, they are.
The kids coming in for next season.
Yep.
Right at the time they probably commit in December.
That's a great question. I guess we're going to have possible two different things of commitment. One, guys who commit verbally but haven't signed the contract, and maybe some that committed and have, maybe there's going to be a difference there. I do not know.
And there are two different contracts. The contract for rev share, which is separate from a contract with nil.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
On the nil contract, we know that can be negotiated, right?
I think all things can be negotiated. The rev share can be negotiated.
That brings up my next question.
Yep.
Does does the Minnesota contract look the same as the Wisconsin contract?
I think so, because it was a Big Ten template.
But so it can't be negotiated?
Yeah, it can be negotiated. But see, I don't know. Like, I don't know if negotiations happen between Wisconsin and Miami. I don't know that. But
No. I'm talking about between the player and Wisconsin.
oh, sure, negotiations can happen. You don't just plunk down a contract and the player signs it.
And that's the point I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
A contract between a player attending Wisconsin and a player attending Minnesota can be a different looking contract, correct?
Yeah, yes, they can be different. But there was a Big Ten template. This first time around, every conference had a template, and maybe there was variations of the template, but
yeah,
yes,
templates are great. Templates are great, but they can be modified. That's all. That's my only question.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a guide. It's not a requirement.
Yep.
The template.
Sure.
So now we've got those two doors opened. So we've got Minnesota going after one player and Wisconsin going after the same player. And before the player signs with Minnesota or Wisconsin, they're going to want to have the better of the two contracts, right?
You would, yeah. I mean, I think a player is going to be negotiating with teams, looking at their offers. Now, a player might not take the best money offer because of other reasons, right? But yeah.
Oh, agree. I agree. Yeah, a legacy or whatever. Yeah,
Yep.
Dad played there. Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes I like a place better. I'd rather live in one place and earn less money than live in another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got that going, and then we've also got the separate contract with NIL, the NIL that contract that Minnesota offers me, and the NIL contract that Wisconsin offers me, and which is the better of those two for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a third option, right, where I can opt out of NIL and do it on my own.
What was that? Can you go on your own with an NIL
Yeah,
deal?
option 3. Yeah.
You can, but that NIL deal from now on in, not before, but now it has to go through the Deloitte clearinghouse. And if it gets approved, then you're good to go. But your athletic department's still going to want to know if you've got a third-party NIL deal, because they want to be able to, manage the roster. If you're a guy that's getting a big old NIL deal, your general manager of your football is going to maybe want to adjust your rev share for the good of the team, and maybe you're willing to do that. I don't know, but yeah, if you sign an NIL deal, third party, you got to go through the wickets. You got to go get it submitted 5 days after the offer, within 5 days, and you got to get it approved.
And everything I've just described is going to happen for every single player.
Well, I mean, sure, these players are going to get offers and they're going to sign a contract, right? And hopefully they have some. Hopefully they have somebody representing them, right?
My teammate might not have a contract like me.
No, of course not. Yep. Yep.
You see any problems here?
No, I don't. What's the problem?
Well, I guess we'll find out. Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. Appreciate it. Beautiful. Yeah, we'll find out. Now, what's interesting here, and Rick, if you're still listening to the program, ESPN just put up an article. Hold on.
Call from
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues. Can you just hold a minute, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Oh shoot! No, I just wanna read something here. ESPN put out an article just now. Representatives from the University of Miami did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And as far as I know, Miami hasn't said a word. Phillips hasn't said a word. The pending case promises to be an interesting test of whether schools can use name, image, and likeness deals to keep athletes from transferring, even though the players aren't technically employees. Well, it's not keeping them from transferring. It's making sure compensation comes back to the school that has signed the deal and has given the players some money. I mean, and I'm not going to go down that road, but this is the part that I want to read. I'm going to put up on the screen here. The contracts between Wisconsin and their athletes give the school non-exclusive rights to use a player NIL in promotions. Part of the deal, according to the lawsuit, prohibits an athlete from making any commitments to enroll or play sports at other schools. The lawsuit says Wisconsin had a reasonable expectation that Lucas would continue to participate as a member of its football program until the deal ended. However, now this is a big one. However, according to several contracts between Big Ten schools and their players that ESPN has previously reviewed, these deals explicitly state the athletes are not being paid to play football for the university, since the school is technically paying only to use the players' NIL rights. It's not clear if a judge will consider it fair to enforce a part of the contract that dictates where the player attends school. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer or anything. It seems a little confusing to me, illogical to me, that the rev share contract, the money you're getting paid directly from the athletic department, isn't a contract that states you're getting paid to play football. That doesn't make any sense to me. Of course you're getting paid to play football. You don't have to be an employee to get paid. I don't know. Anyways, Movie Time Blues, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Yes. I want to go back to the comment that Swarbrick made when he mentioned the two solar system scenario. What I'm thinking is that now a lot of people were assuming that he was referring to conferences or super conferences. However, what we may be missing is that there may be a conflict within the college sports association over governance. Like the view of Wisconsin is already now clashing with the view of Miami. And if this keeps up, we may see like a bifurcation within the entire college sports ecosystem between those who see a sports first culture, and those who want to hold on to the old traditions of college and academics and integrity. And nothing is more clear than the conflict between Wisconsin and Miami. So
wait. I don't know. I mean, I'm not getting that from this lawsuit. I don't see this big schism between. I don't see that. I just think that Wisconsin believes that this player signed a contract and he signed a contract with them, and Miami tampered with them, and that was going to be a no-go. I'm not. You're really taking it 30,000 feet up in the air. You're taking a look down, and it sounds like you're saying that there are schools and cultures that just want to play football, and maybe there are Big Ten that want to. But there is no school out there that wants tampering going on, especially when their player has signed a contract going forward. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I don't see
understand.
the ACC contracts are basically identical to what the Big Ten used. That.
The thing is Wisconsin is making the complaint. They're a major representative of the old way of doing things. The two solar systems may be two constellations if the way things are going, because the Big 12, the SEC, they have a certain culture that looks how sports are integrated into their society. Whereas, with the Big Ten, it is an approach that tries to integrate sports with academics. I know it's overgeneralizing, yes,
Yeah,
but
I get what you're saying, but I think it's I don't think it has anything to do with this. I think in fact, this ain't going to be the first. This is the first time, but ain't going to be the only time. You're going to have cross-pollination fights going on between all conferences. You're going to sign a player and you've got the goods that someone has tampered with your players. You're going to go out there and say something. That's how it's going to be. And we'll see how this is settled. This is going to be a good indication how future squabbles are settled. I think this is unusual because of the situation that Miami is in. I don't know. I don't think this is worth it. I don't think this is worth it for Miami, but so far I haven't seen one Miami fan think that this is not worth it. So
I don't know why Wisconsin would agree to unequal revenue share. What will that do if they see that their own peers like Purdue and Northwestern,
we don't know if Wisconsin has agreed to unequal revenue share.
I understand.
Pat Shun, the Washington athletic director, believes it's likely to happen in the next media contract. We shall see. I mean, for me as a Golden Gopher, it would be very difficult pill to swallow if Wisconsin's getting a little bit more than Minnesota when it comes to the media money. But they are the bigger brand. So, but that would be quite the historic change in the Big Ten. It would be tough for Minnesota to swallow that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's so much uncertainty right now that, You look at one way and there's something happening, and then look another way and something else is popping up. And
Yep.
And I just don't think Wisconsin wants to go down that road because they value the relationship with the likes of Northwestern and Purdue and Michigan. So, but we may be looking at a brand new era.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think we are. Alrighty, sir. Movie time
Okay.
blues.
I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Appreciate the call, my man. Call again.
Sure.
Replica, Mr. Longhorns. This lawsuit has no legs, in my opinion. No court is going to allow schools to implement contract language that restricts the student-athletes movement. I sort of agree with you, Replica, but I don't agree with you. I'm sort of the restriction of student-athletes movements. It ain't going to be the same like the NFL. I don't think these contracts are going to be as binding as the NFL. I don't see it happening unless we go under a collective bargaining agreement, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I do think there is language in these contracts that basically say you leave, there's got to be compensation coming back to us. If you go in the portal and the school that takes the player, that there's going to be a buyout for that school to go to the school that just lost the player. That is written in the settlement. Everybody knows this. That the money that you use in the portal to grab a player that goes to another team, that's going to count against your rev share cap. This has been articulated to all the athletic directors. So, yes, I don't think, I could be wrong. I agree with Replica. You're not going to be able to restrict the player. But the school that loses you, they're going to get compensation back. These young men and the young women are signing contracts.
From
Replica. I was just talking about how I sort of agree with you, sort of don't. These young men and women are signing contracts. They're signing them. They're getting money. They're signing them. If they leave, just like a coach does, compensation is going to go back to the school that lost you. And that is why I don't understand why Miami just did not give Wisconsin some scratch. Get this over with. I don't quite understand their strategy. Maybe Wisconsin was refusing to negotiate. I can't believe they would do that, but maybe Replica, go ahead.
Well, would it be Miami's responsibility? Because Miami didn't sign the contract with Wisconsin. It would have been the student athlete, right?
Yeah, but
I understand. I understand Miami is probably compensating him for coming to that school, but it would seem to me that it would be incumbent upon the player and the player's representation to compensate. But I'm gonna try to be quick because I missed most of the show. I'll skip the whole unequal representation thing. But my whole thing is they need to work towards a system similar to professional soccer, where when a player leaves, you have to compensate that team. So the way it works in soccer is when a player signs a contract, you can't go speak with the player without the other club's permission. You can't negotiate with the agent or anything like that. You have to have an agreement with the club first, or you have to approach the club and say, hey, we are interested in signing this player. Can we negotiate personal terms with said player? So they need to come up with a system that explicitly lays out a set of rules for these type of situations. I understand that it's written into the house settlement, but they need something more concrete that's separate from that lawsuit. So that way, when these situations happen, the team that's losing a player can be compensated, and we won't have to.
You see,
go
I
back and forth
believe
like this.
I believe Wisconsin already believes that's in place. All of these schools have buyouts in these contracts with their players. I mean, that's what they're saying. That's what all the reports are. I think they already think they've gone to that point, and that's going to hold up. But we don't know if it's going to hold up in the courts if this goes all the way to the end. I mean, I can see, like, I can understand a Vanderbilt battling Alabama in this, or maybe not inside the SEC. I can see a Vanderbilt battling Wisconsin over this. I can see Mississippi State battling Wake Forest over a player. But Miami, this ain't the time to battle over Wisconsin on something like this. But whatever.
I get the backdrop you're talking about when we talk about like realignment and all that stuff. I just don't understand what they would expect Miami to do. Like remember, Miami is an institution at the end of the day. I know we're talking about football, but they're an institution. They're not going to turn down a student enrolling in their school based off of the NIL deal at another school. Like that has to be worked out, but I don't see how they can come up with any kind of punishment that will either restrict the player's movement or to keep the player from playing. Now, maybe they could argue that whatever NIL that they're getting from the new school should be rerouted back to Wisconsin until that buyout gets paid off. I could see them arguing for that, but
I kind of agree with you and I kind of don't, because, hey, young men and women, you're getting compensated. You're getting paid.
Yep, and you're signing contracts.
You sign a contract. You have some sort of commitment to that contract. If you want to get out of it, things happen, man. Things happen. I have worked as a consultant. I'm not under any collective bargaining agreement. Some things I have turned down. Some things I was a consultant for a commercial print company. That's the industry that I worked in. I worked with a commercial print. Then I became a consultant, and I'm like, sometimes I got a term in which the term was way too long, too much work. Sometimes, whatever it was, sometimes I agreed with it, sometimes I didn't. I mean, you are a young man and women who are getting compensated for the labor, the hard work that you do. You're getting a whole lot more. Some of you guys and gals are getting way more money than us guys out here. And there is a sort of level of commitment. And in these contracts, there are buyout provisions, especially going forward. None of these schools are going to make sure that just like a head coach, man, a head coach leaves, but there's going to be a buyout in there. That's what these players are going to do. That's what Wisconsin's talking about here, I think, anyways.
Well, I'll leave you with two things, and I want to hear your thoughts. The first thing, I don't see how that the particular part of the language where it restricts the player from going to another school. I personally think that's unconstitutional, just based off of all the rulings we've gotten up to this point. So I don't know if that specific part will hold, but what if there was some kind of punishment to where Miami can't market the kid? They can't market them. They can't put them on the social media. They can't have, like, the meet and greet events. All the things that are, synonymous with representing the university as a student athlete. Maybe the athlete won't be able to participate in those things, and maybe they won't be able to be compensated by Miami until the obligations of the original contract are fulfilled. So I'm interested to see what you think. It's going to be hard. I don't know what their end game is other than
I don't know either, sir. I do not know either. I don't know. My answer is I do not know anything, Replica.
Yeah. We don't know anything, but this is another sign of poor leadership in the sport.
I do find it interesting, Replica. I do find it interesting that we still haven't heard a word from Miami. We haven't heard a word from Jim Phillips. I find that quite interesting.
I don't think there's any point in them saying anything right now. Like, number one is just kind of a Friday news dump.
Sure.
But they need to figure out the parameters of this lawsuit before they actually speak because they could say something to get themselves in trouble. So we'll see how it goes.
You got it, man. Beautiful call, Replica.
Have a good one.
You got it. Mr. Longhorn. Mr. Longhorn. Oh, MH Ortho 12. Check out Freeman's interview with Joe Klatt. He says point blank that he and Pete Bavacqua aren't against the conference and that an SEC Big 9+1 puts them in a conference. Let me send that interview to me. If anybody got it, send that interview, MH Ortho 12. Send a link for me. I'm going to go listen to it.
From
Evil Badger.
Evo Badger is on the line. Evo Badger, Ryan Willie, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your kindness, sir. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
I'm not going to stay on too long because I can't right now.
You got a fish fry going on.
But
some Minnesota walleye.
Yes, I love my walleye. But I think what people are getting totally wrong with this lawsuit is they're not going after the player. Yeah. They're going after Miami for what they did.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why Wisconsin's getting a bad rap for this. I mean, sure, Lucas has gone to Miami. I'm not debating that. I just want Miami to give some compensation back to Wisconsin. That's all I really want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just want people to understand that it's Miami that Wisconsin is going after, not the player.
Yeah, the player's not getting sued.
So that's my thoughts on that, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Appreciate the call, my man. Beautiful. Well, here we go. Here we go. Here's some Minnesota Golden Gopher propaganda. Roman Voss, I will be making my college decision Monday, June 23rd. It's between your beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers versus Alabama. Woo! Roman Voss, he's he's sort of, well, he's considered an athlete. Don't even really have a position for him. Freak athlete. Minnesota versus Alabama. Let's do it. Let's do it. Good question, Movie Time Blues. I didn't think of it. I did not think of it. My bad. Christopher Hooter, you had a Oh, I missed Christopher Hooter. Okay, hold on.
Call from
Nathan Brown.
Nathan Brown, can you hold on for just 1 second, please?
Sure.
Christopher Hooter, they aren't student athletes. That ship has sailed too. They are just athletes. All due respect, Christopher Hooter, I appreciate all what you do in the chat room. I disagree. I still call them student athletes. Sometimes I call them players, but most of the time, if you and you did recognize it, I call them student athletes. Why? because there are still eligibility requirements from all these student athletes. We are not in a world of amateurism. We are definitely not in a world of total professionalism. We are in this other area that is undefined, but I'm going to keep calling them student athletes because there are eligibility stuff going on. And again, for those who are saying that that Marcus Freeman said something about 9+1 puts them in a conference, send that interview into my Twitter DM. I do appreciate it. Nathan Brown, the man, the myth, the legend, BYU Cougar. He's got a big show tonight. Go ahead, sir. Let it rip.
Anybody else find it ironic that this is a Big Ten school suing an ACC school?
Nope. Don't find it ironic at all, baby.
You got supposedly the richest conference versus one of the poorest, certainly one of the worst led in the ACC.
Well, I don't think it's the conference that's being sued.
Price.
I think it's the school. Correct?
Yeah, you're of course right.
Yep.
It's just I think it's funny that for one thing it never should have gotten here. Everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the final play of Wisconsin is here, or even Miami for that matter. But I do, especially in this day when all these state schools are running huge deficits for operations. Now all of a sudden you have name, image, and likeness conflicts for players that have already moved on. It's just, I don't see what the end game is here. Miami's going to end up writing a check, and there's no way this gets through courts.
I don't know how it got to this point. I don't quite understand. Maybe Wisconsin was being, I don't know. Maybe Wisconsin wasn't answering the phone, or maybe Miami refused. But something should have been done because we're now. I mean, I think all of us would admit, at some level, we were sort of in this zone of confusion, right? Where, yes, players were signing rev share agreements. Yes, they were not getting compensated yet. But yes, there are wordage in the contract that says it's going to be binding if the settlement. I mean, it was all sort of confusing, right? But now we're going to go into a world in which players, men and women, are going to be signing contracts. They're going to have to get paid. There are commitments from NIL and those schools. They're going to get paid. And there are some sort of commitments from the players. But it ain't going to be like a binding contract, I don't believe. I think they're going to be able to leave, but then compensation is going to flow back to the school. And I think these two schools should have worked something out. I don't know.
Does anybody really believe? I mean, why, if you're a top athlete, a 4 or 5 star athlete, would you sign a multi-year deal for anything?
They probably won't be. A lot of them won't be. Some of them will.
Well, when House was announced, that was one of the advantages they said.
Yeah,
they're going to be able to do these long-term deals.
Well,
I don't see it.
You might sign a longer term. You might sign a 2-year, 3-year deal if the money is so much greater. Like you're signing security, money changing for your family. The 1-year deal it's going to be smaller money. But you might gamble on yourself and say, no, I'm going to only sign a 1-year deal because as a freshman, I'm going to cook, baby. But these left tackles, these freshmen they take a couple years to, I can see them signing a longer term deal. I could be wrong.
I mean, I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff we won't know for a while. But
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, not one big-time school that plays big-time college football wants to have anything to do with tampering being formalized or tortious interference being defended in court. Nobody wants a piece of that. It's kind of like the ACC. There was almost no way that was going to go to court, that settlement, because of all the damage it could have done with open records and other things. I don't see any way, shape, or form that any of these things actually get formalized, because everybody likes the gray area, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to have that stuff defined.
Yeah, I agree. But you know, Nathan, it seems, I cannot believe it got to this point. That I do not understand that. I don't understand. I mean, why spend money on lawyers? Just give to Wisconsin something. Wisconsin's going to say, yay, celebrate. Miami, you got your player. Wisconsin, you got your compensation. Kind of sets a whatever. Why it should not have gotten to this point. I'm absolutely baffled. Nathan, I want to hear what Jim Phillips says in public. Now, people in the chat room are saying we're probably not going to hear from either one of them. Well, shoot, man, I think you got to say something, don't you?
Well, Miami being a private school makes things a little more complex.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's reasons why that stuff will never be exposed from a private school standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking about the other stuff, if you're talking about the stuff that would go with a lawsuit that would be public, I just can't see a reason why. Jim Phillips isn't going to say anything. You already said it. It's not a lawsuit against the ACC. It's a lawsuit against Miami.
That's true.
And why would the conference say anything? It's funny that the Big Ten came out as forcefully as they did.
Yeah, silent
right?
Tony.
Yeah, and so I think the difference between those two is really sort of startling if you think about it.
Yeah, and
one is the biggest conference conceivably playing for the most leverage. The other one is a conference that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is DOA at some point. And
well,
they're not.
okay,
He doesn't say anything.
But what about Miami? I mean, Miami, you've got bigger mountains that you want to climb than this, right? Right.
Well, I mean, if you really want to break it down, I think it's remarkable that if it's true that an actual coach on staff showed up to a recruit's house that wasn't in the portal, that shocks me.
Yeah, and the guy had signed
would do that.
And in this new era, now, truthfully, I mean, it was just the start of the new era, but that young man had signed 2 different contracts. The rev share,
right.
which is a memorandum of understanding. I mean, you know, the guy wasn't going to be compensated to July 1st, but he signed a contract. He also signed an NIL contract in which it sounds like he got paid some money. It was a bridge until he's going to start getting compensated on July 1st. He signed 2 different contracts, according to Wisconsin. You're having a coach come in. Again, this stuff happens, Nathan, unfortunately. But usually the school that gets screwed in the deal doesn't have the goods, doesn't have the evidence. But I think Wisconsin believes they have the evidence. Big Ten definitely thinks they have the evidence. Why didn't Miami just make this go away? I don't get it.
No, it makes absolutely no sense, and I firmly believe that, again, it won't ever make it to court, but I don't think it's in any conference that plays big-time college football to have any of those rules codified and any greater than they already are. They're already gray areas. It is tortious interference. There's a lot of subjectivity. And then tampering is hilarious because at the end of the day in social media, what's tampering anymore? That's why I think it's remarkable that coach would actually show up to a player's house. That's a little bit different. That was a bit of a wrinkle.
Yep.
So we'll have to see, but
yep.
I think everybody getting upset about Ryan Willie is exactly right. This has nothing to do with the player. It has to do with the school, and a lot of these things are procedural. The only difference is we have Miami, who is just on the outside of being a blue blood football program, and Wisconsin, who is in the most profitable football conference. They have different modus operandi. They do things for different reasons, and I just don't. I'm with you. I'm stunned that we're even hearing about this.
Yeah.
This should have been settled months ago.
Yeah. All righty, man.
All right. Well, appreciate it.
You got it, buddy. Check out College Football Mafia tonight. You know they're going to have a big show on this, right?
We're going to try.
Just
What
battle.
happens.
Just say Moen, the fat guy from Minnesota, says you're wrong. And Moen's going to ask, what about? And you say to him, about everything, baby, about everything.
Well, I tell him he's wrong all the time.
October
so
4th, October 4th, Gophers and the Buckeyes. Tell him he's going down. Thank you, Nathan Brown.
There we go.
Appreciate
all right.
it.
Have a great night, Greg.
You
See
got
ya.
it, buddy. Great call.
All right. Bye-bye.
You got it. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Timeout. 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 Calling a timeout. Rock and Rant, just jumping on quick because I'm busy with the work stuff. Don't want anyone to think I'm hiding. Rock and Rant never hides. But I would just say good luck to Wisconsin. Receipts are going to start showing up in your inbox. The University of Wisconsin glass houses. Also, good luck to the South Florida boys. Hope you never want a wide receiver again that anyone else wants. Okay, how do I do this? First of all, Chapos Lean. Are you in the, is Chapos timeout? I'm calling a timeout. We are calling an audible. We are calling an audible. Chapos, I'm probably saying your name wrong. Chapos Lean. Are you in the chat room under a different name? Because I got to say thank you to you. Who are you, Chapos Lean? Where is Chapos Lean? Tell me. Who is Chapos Lean? Chapos Lean. Who's Chapos Lean? Tu Master, are you Chapos Lean? Whatever. Let me know who Chapos Lean is. Now, am I going to get in trouble for playing a video? I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get a copyright thing here. Oh, boy, I got a decision to make. It's not going to be like a serious copyright. but they're going to take like $10 away from me. Play a few seconds and interrupt it. Is that how I do it? Describe the video for chat. I would, but normally I would, but this is too big. This is too big. God dang it. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to have the volume on because it does. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. There is subtitles. There is subtitles. All right, everybody. I need everyone's attention. I need everybody to stay focused. Go Black 45. Stay focused. Rock and Rant. Greg, fair use said you can use a few seconds of it. So yes, pause and then continue it. I'll do that. Better ask for forgiveness. I'm declaring fair use. YouTube, I'm declaring fair use. Chappelle Roan. Okay. Joe Klatt. Now, we talked about Notre Dame here, right? We talked about Notre Dame and how I said the walls are closing in. And we did say a peek around the corner. Man, it would be difficult for Notre Dame to be able to keep enough value with their media rights if the Big Ten and the SEC ever went to 9 games each and had a crossover game. That has been in the chatter the chatter behind the curtain has been saying that for a long time. So I said that on a live show, many live shows. It doesn't look like we're going to get to it because the SEC don't even want to go to 9 games, much less go to 9 games and have a crossover game with the Big Ten. But if it ever happened, we said that, the Notre Dame, the walls are going to completely close in. Let's take a look. The Joe Klatt Show. Will Notre Dame be forced to join a conference? With the college football playoff and scheduling as their biggest threat, Marcus Freeman wants Notre Dame to remain independent as long as possible. As long as possible. So, I'm going to take this volume all the way down. The question is, will Notre Dame be forced to join a conference? How important is it for you guys to retain your independence? As long as we can. Now, I get it. It's just a head football coach. He's not the decision maker. It's Bavacqua. It's the father, Flanagan, or whoever the father is. The president of the university. Father somebody. But he says as long as we can. In other words, he's not saying forever. As long as we can, we will. It's what this football program was built from. I have a lot of confidence. Fair use, YouTube. Fair use. Our administration and Pete Bavacqua, the athletic director. I have a lot of confidence in our athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, that he'll always keep us in position to be successful. Okay? A lot of confidence in Pete Bavacqua to keep us successful. So as long as we can keep that independence, we will. But if there ever comes, we'll keep that independence, but if there ever comes a time that we are at a disadvantage because we're not in a conference, I'm sure we'll make that decision along with our president to say, all right, we're going to join one of these conferences. So once it becomes a disadvantage to us, we'll join a conference. Now, Notre Dame is going to always be able to keep their playoff access, right? They will, as an independent. Right now, they're making a good enough money because they've got a good enough deal with ACC, and now they got to deal with Clemson. They do have a strong enough standalone TV contract to make it work. However, what is the biggest threat that you would see that, where you would be at a disadvantage? So Joe Klatt, great follow-up question. What would be that one thing that could pop to make Notre Dame be at a disadvantage? Make the postseason? Okay, well, Notre Dame ain't going to have problems with that. They're going to have access because you're not in the playoffs. Or if it becomes a time where teams won't schedule you, or if comes a time where teams won't schedule you because the Big Ten or the SEC are saying, we're going to play 9 games and we'll play a crossover game. And who cares about Notre Dame? And that is exactly the scenario we brought up a couple months ago. And you can see that Notre Dame has talked about it. Marcus Freeman knows they've talked about it. Babakwa, the coach, he knew the answer to this question. If the Big Ten and the SEC play 9 games and had a crossover, Notre Dame would not be able to get that schedule the way they wanted it, the way they needed to. Well, then I think there's going to be a point where we may be forced to join a conference. But until that point happens, it doesn't look likely going to stay independent as long as we can. Now, again, that is just the coach saying it, not the athletic director. But we did an article that was from spring of 2024 where Pete Babakwa said the exact same thing. We're going to be an independent football program, but if the time comes where we cannot schedule to fulfill the obligations towards our broadcast partner, NBC, well, then we're not going to be able to remain college football independent anymore. And this was one of the couple scenarios. The other scenario is that the ACC implodes, they lose enough of their big brands, and their Olympic sports go completely pear-shaped. That is another reason that Pete Babakwa and the former athletic director, Swarbrick, said that Notre Dame would leave football independence because they would leave the ACC at that point. So yes, the old adage that Notre Dame, if they haven't left for a conference yet, they're not going to a conference. If they would have ever done it, they would have already done it, right? If they were ever going to join a conference, it would have been done years ago. That is just the dumbest logic. I refuse. That logic has nothing, should never be used in the world of college football realignment, because there's always new things going on. You heard it from Marcus Freeman, and that's a coach. And do you see how he said that? Joe Klatt asked him, what is the greatest threat that you see? Marcus Freeman had an answer ready. Big Ten go to 9, SEC go to 9, crossover. Because they've had those talks. And the chatter behind the curtain opened the door. Let us know at Peek Around the Corner. This is why we relate it to you all. But for now, Notre Dame football independence rolls on. And SEC don't look like they're going to 9 conference games anyway. But if the SEC would just pull the trigger and go to 9 conference games and play a crossover with the Big Ten, the SEC would make so much more money. There would be automatic qualifiers. But the Southeastern Conference is not going to 9 games, so the Leprechaun is protected. The Leprechaun is protected. That was the purpose of them signing the ACC deal. Absolutely, King Spleen. Absolutely. Domers may not need to worry about the Big Ten and the SEC. They have yeah, I mean, finely tuned. The SEC will go to 7 before they go 9. Soft. This is a non-story without CFP access limitations. Again, if the Notre Dame can't schedule the way they need to be able to schedule at a high enough level for them to get a high enough revenue from NBC. That contract is on a sliding scale. So, we'll see. But this came out of Marcus Freeman's mouth. It's exactly what we reported to you all. Thank you for whoever. Chapels Lean, thank you for sending that to me. That what Marcus Freeman said is the exact match of what we've been told here at Peek Around the Corner. Interesting times. Interesting times that we live in here, college football. I want to thank everybody who's joined us for this massive show here at Peek Around the Corner. Massive. Thank you, Base Jaron, Daniel Gorby, George Holton, Ryan Willie. Thank you guys so very much, George Holton. I bet Phillips backs Miami about as good as he backed Florida State in 2023. That was the comment of the day. Thank you so much, George Holton. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us here June 20th. I really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button if you liked our content today. Keep your head on a swivel. We will be going live at some point this weekend. So keep your head on a swivel. We are going to be covering breaking news all during the weekend. And we're also going to be doing the South Carolina Gamecock Spotlight. The Spotlight is on South Carolina at some point this weekend. So continue, stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner as we go through this off season. The football season is right around the corner at college football's Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please y'all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.